Hello, and welcome to Cheers. That's one woman's opinion, special episode for Woody Harrelson's 64th birthday. Heard the votes that I had asked you about for the Woody Harrelson movie that you liked the best. The winner was Kingpin. So today I'll be doing my rewatch of Kingpin. Well, I'll be doing the podcast of the rewatch, obviously. I already rewatched it. So this movie was released in 1996. It was directed by Bobby Farrelly and Peter Farrelly, and I'm hoping I'm pronouncing their names correctly. It was written by Barry Finero and Mort Nathan. The cast had over 99 people in it, so I'm not doing the entire cast. I think I have about 23 people on my list here. Obviously, starting with Woody Harrelson. Woody Harrelson played Roy Munson, Randy Quaid as Ishmael, Vanessa Engel as Claudia, Bill Murray as Ernie McCracken, Chris Elliott as the gambler, William Jordan as Mr. Borg, Richard Tyson as owner of Stiffy's, Lynn Shay as the landlady, Zen Gessner as Thomas, Prudence Wright Holmes as Mrs. Borg, Rob Moran as Stanley Osmansky, Daniel Green as Calvert Munson, Roy Munson's father, Will Rothhar as the young boy. So that must be Woody's character when he was a little boy in the very start of the movie, I think. Mark Carpentier as 1979 bowling buddy. Brad Faxon as a 1979 bowling buddy. Billy Andre as a 1979 bowling buddy. Paul DeWolf as a 1979 bowling buddy. Jill Lytle as odor eating babe. Bill Bochenchi, again hoping saying it right, as Bunyan Boy. Syed Badaria as Fatima. Linda Carella as 1979 waitress. Monica Shea as a 1979 diner floozy. And Danny Murphy as a Beaver Valley bowling manager. And Murphy died in 2014 from lung cancer. Let's get into our summary. Roy is a little boy playing with his father. They are bowling. They are bowling in the backyard. His dad says Roy has a gift for bowling. He is already bowling in three-digit games. I found this very impressive as a little boy that he was bowling three-digit games because I am now 45 and I don't think I've ever broken 100. I may have once. So, yeah, bowling's not my forte. Okay, sports in general is not my forte. His dad tells him he is going to be a decent and moral man as well as a great bowler. So as time passes, and Roy is now a grown man, and it's 1979. He is the state amateur bowling champion. He is outside with his dad and others, and he says he's going on a professional bowling tour. He tells his dad he wants to make him proud. McCracken is doing a commentary as Roy gets ready to bowl. Roy is sweating and tells McCracken, "Do you mind? I wasn't talking when you were bowling." McCracken apologizes, and as Roy lets go of the ball, McCracken yells, "Good luck!" But Roy bowls a strike, and he wins the game. Someone put sugar in Roy's tank. I looked this thing up because I wasn't sure what the deal with the sugar was, and apparently it's a old wives' tale, myth type deal. That sugar will destroy the engine of a car. But this is actually not real because I don't know anything about cars, but apparently there's something in the engine-y stuff that will filter that out and protect the car. But it cost him $2,000 to fix. McCracken shows up behind him and tells the man to fill him up. He gets out of the car, hitting Roy with the door. Roy and McCracken are eating together. McCracken tells Roy that he needs to work from town to town to get supplemental income. Roy nods and McCracken sends him outside. They go to a building with a bowling alley inside. Roy doesn't feel right, but he reluctantly agrees. He gets Roy to appear drunk so that people will bowl against him for money. They lose the game, and McCracken is ready to go. Roy says double or nothing, he can hit the 6 7 10 split. Spare, sorry, 6 7 10 spare. McCracken says not for $700, but then he bets $1,500. Roy bowls and gets the spare, no problem. McCracken and Roy leave. Roy tells him again he doesn't feel right and asks if what they did was legal. McCracken says he doesn't know, but it was fun. Roy sees a lot of sugar in McCracken's back seat. And I don't think that Roy actually made the connection, at least at this point, that the gas tank thing and the sugar obviously was McCracken's because McCracken tells him he drinks coffee. Um, so I don't think he quite got that. And I'm also thinking, which I didn't think about before, but Roy, when he gets Roy to agree to the supplemental income, he sends him outside. So I'm actually wondering, I'm not sure who he was talking to that he had to have him leave and then come back in after, but I'm wondering if he had like a double setup where he set it up with Roy to do the gambling and also set up with these other people then to go and beat up Roy very badly, which we're going to see in a second here. The men come out of the bowling alley and start beating McCracken's car with a bat. They bust the back window and the headlight. McCracken tells Roy sometimes the bowler just has to face the music. After Roy gets out of the car, McCracken takes off saying, "That bowler is you, Roy." The men stick Roy's arm down the bowling chute and he screams. And I looked this up as well because in the next scene we're going to see him with his claw hand. Um, It is a bad idea to stick your hand down the bowling chute. Let me just clarify that. However, from everything I've read, it would not rip your hand off. It could cause bruising, it could cause dislocation, fractures, but it would not rip your hand off from what I've read. But obviously, all those are bad, not to mention it breaks the machine and you have to get it off. So it's definitely not wise to stick your hand in the machine. But of course, it wasn't Roy's choice to do that. So, 17 years have passed. Roy wakes up with a mostly bald head and a claw hand. He is living in the projects and drinking a lot. The landlord tells him she wants the rent money by tomorrow morning. Roy goes to the bowling alley, attaching a fake rubber hand before going in. And on the hand he actually has a his ring from becoming the amateur state champion there. So he's got that on his rubber hand. I don't know why he didn't just put it on the other hand, but that's where he's got it. He tries to sell them stuff and they don't want it. He helps a man named Ishmael with his bowling. Ishmael leaves and Roy learns that the man is Amish. He follows Ishmael and tries to become his bowling manager, but Ishmael turns him down. Roy helps a lady with a baby, but accidentally spills coffee on the baby. The mother sees the claw and gets scared. Roy saves his landlord from being robbed. The landlord comes up to thank him and discovers it was a scam. And Roy is friends with the so-called mugger. She kicks him out, and he says there has to be something that he can do. She says no, but then they end up having sex. Roy is puking his guts out, and the landlord tells him it wasn't that bad. And I love that she's like not even insulted by the fact this guy's puking over the idea of having sex with her. She's just very calmly telling him it wasn't so bad. Roy drives into Amish country. He poses as an Amish man named Hezekiah. He goes to Ishmael's house. Ishmael explains that no one knows that he bowls, and his family would not approve. Roy tells him that there's a bowling tournament in Reno, Nevada. First prize is $1 million. Roy says he can help Ishmael win the tournament. They split everything 50-50. Ishmael tells him that he will have a hard time keeping up pretending to be Amish, and Roy says he'll be fine. The next day, Roy tells them that he got up early and milked the cow. His mouth is all white. Ishmael's dad informs him they don't have a cow, they have a bull. Roy says, "I'm gonna go brush my teeth." This is actually one of my favorite scenes in the movie. Um, the whole obviously implication that what would be white from a bull versus a cow. Just so well done. The Amish men are building a barn, and Roy helps. A piece of wood gets caught on his hook. The men just shake their heads. One of the women rings a bell for dinner. Roy lets go of the wall and runs. The wall falls down. Thomas tells him off for leaving while raising a 2,000-pound wall. And I actually can understand why um, Thomas would be upset by that. I mean, that was kind of dumb to do. I think you'd have a little bit more brains than to just leave in the middle of a wall. And it's good because Roy then says to Thomas to remember what the Bible says about not forgiving. And Thomas clearly suspects that this man is not really Amish, which of course he isn't. So he asks him, well, why don't you tell us? What does the Bible say? And Roy says, it's against it. Roy is talking to Ishmael. Ishmael tells him that God blessed Thomas to be a good carpenter. Roy tells him that Ishmael was blessed as well. Ishmael's dad comes down to talk to Ishmael. He asks Roy to take the shoes off of the horse. Ishmael's father says that unless they come up with $500,000, they may lose their land. Roy comes out announcing that it took some doing, but he got the horse shoes off the horse. Ishmael tells Rebecca he is going on a mission trip with Hezekiah, in case you forgot that's Roy, and thinks God will bless him with $500,000. He kisses her quickly on the cheek before getting into Roy's car. Ishmael tells Roy he should try to quit smoking, but then Roy gets Ishmael to try smoking. Then he gets him to try coffee as well. And I love the fact that Ishmael is willing to smoke before he would drink coffee, which obviously smoking's a lot worse. I mean, coffee can be a bad addiction too, but definitely smoking's a lot worse. But Ishmael's very confused on worldly things. Ishmael bowls 186 and loses a game. Roy is angry. Ishmael explains he bowls 15 frame games, not 10, because as he explained before, the Amish do everything half as much as the rest of the world. Roy decides that Ishmael doesn't have a chance in the bowling tournament and decides that he's going to take him home. Ishmael demands that Roy stop the car so he can walk to Reno. Ishmael says he'd rather get Munson out here in the middle of nowhere than to lose face in front of his family and friends. And Roy doesn't understand what he's saying when he says Munson, so Ishmael explains this is a figure of speech, meaning to be up creek without a paddle, or have the world in the palm of your hands and blow it. Munson is upset now his name is used. Upset how his name is used. Roy tells Ishmael he passed the test, and they head to Reno. At the bowling alley, Roy works with Ishmael. He tells him a bowler's worst enemy are his eyes and ears. He needs to feel the ball. He shows him movies of a bowler, and Ishmael falls asleep. Roy pulls him by his hook hand. Soon Ishmael is bowling all strikes. Roy notices his rubber hand is missing. He sees it on a lady's breast who is making out with another man. He grabs it back and puts the man's hand in its place. Ishmael asks him about a dog he sees in the paper. Roy tells him to stop asking so many questions. Ishmael assures him he can figure out some things for himself. The camera then pulls back to show him sitting on the urinal. Another great scene. Roy tells Ishmael they may have to bet to get to Reno. Ishmael's against betting. They try to hustle the man at the alley, the way Roy did with McCracken 17 years ago. However, this man is onto him. The man at the alley tells him a place they can go at midnight and to bring money. Roy counts money and tells Ishmael to make sure he wins. Ishmael tells him, we can't lose. It's the centurion's faith that gave him divine favor. Sorry, yawning a lot today, getting tired. Been a very crazy week. Um, I'll explain some more about that maybe tomorrow. But before the centurion's faith, for those of you who don't know what that's referring to, in the Bible, the centurion, one of the, like a Roman guard, is at the foot of the cross, when Jesus is being hanged, and as Jesus dies, the centurion says, "Surely this was the man of God." Sorry, surely this was the Son of God. Um, so that's what he's referring to when he says centurion's faith. Stanley tells them that they're playing for $1,000 a game. Ishmael is amused by the lady, saying with her hips, she can't have more than 6 or 7 children. They start to bowl. Roy tells Ishmael that Stanley has 228, and Ishmael will need 3 strikes to win. The lady who's dressed in white goes to get a beer. The cold beers make her nipples erect. Roy stares and says he would like one too. Ishmael says he'll get it. He is wearing a white shirt too, and his nipples become erect, which is a great sight gag. He then returns to the alley and gets the 3rd strike. The woman, we learn her name is Claudia. She says the great Stanley got beaten by the farm boy on his own track. Stanley asks to speak to her in the other room. I really do not like this scene. I get why it's done. I just don't like the whole fact that this guy's beating her. And even worse, nobody tries to help her, which I explain here. Roy and Ishmael both want to help her, but they're stopped by another man. But it seems to me they could have overtaken her. Again, I get why it was done, but I don't like it. Stanley comes out and pays them, but he wants to play again. Roy says it's too late. Stanley sees the $100 bill that Roy has, and it's wrapped in all Monopoly money. So he punches Roy in the stomach. He tells Ishmael that he looks like he wants to hit him. Ishmael tells him, "We don't raise our hands in anger against others." Stanley tells him, "They do," meaning the world and its people. He tells the man who is there to take Ishmael out back and make his left hand look like Roy's right hand. In the dark, the men escape. I never understood why it was dark, but it dawned on me I think Claudia must have been the one to turn off the lights. So anyway, Claudia also leaves and punctures Stanley's car tire. She tells Roy to give her the keys, and then she takes off with Ishmael in the car before Roy is even fully in it. Claudia is angry because she left without a plan. She explains that Stanley hit her and she can't take that. Roy tells Claudia to calm down, like Ishmael, and then they see something is wrong with Ishmael, and he tells Claudia to pull over. Meanwhile, Ishmael's dad asks Thomas to find Ishmael and bring him home, and Thomas says that he will. Claudia, Roy, and Ishmael. Wow. Sorry, again. Claudia, Roy, and Ishmael are eating. Claudia asks Roy about his hook. A woman comes over and asks Ishmael to dance. Ishmael says he doesn't know how, but the lady says she'll teach him. Claudia tells Roy she helped them because she wanted to save Ishmael. However, she couldn't care less if Roy was killed. He tells her just because you spend most of your time in the missionary position does not make you a missionary. I like that line. It's incredibly rude, but I like it anyway. She says they shouldn't like each other for them to be partners. She tells Roy he doesn't have enough money to get to Reno. Skidmark, he was played by Roger Clemens, former baseball pitcher. Um, I used to be a fan of him. He was a Red Sox. Then he became a Yankee, and not a fan at all of him. Not because he went to the Yankees, though I don't like that. Obviously, he's a Red Sox fan, but I have issues with his whole hitting people. He was known as Mr. Control, that had all the control of the ball, and he would hit people. He hit Mike Piazza from the Mets twice. Um, And you just know it was intentional, even though he never got called on it because let's face it, we all know certain players get certain rights that others don't have because of their talent. So anyway, Skidmark is the boyfriend of the woman with whom Ishmael is dancing. Claudia says Ishmael likes her and she has $500. Skidmark is angry with Ishmael. Roy punches Ishmael, telling him, "You don't mow another man's lawn." They are on the road again, and Claudia is angry with Roy for knocking Ishmael out. Even worse, he had a drink with Skidmark and his people after. Claudia tells him they don't have any more money. Roy suggests that maybe Claudia should come with them so she can get back on her feet, and Ishmael's happy about this idea. They go to a bowling alley. Claudia has on a mini skirt and matching half shirt. She uses it to distract the other bowlers. Back in the car, she puts sunscreen on her on try that again. Back in the car, she puts sunscreen on Ishmael from her chest. She then squirts him out of the container onto Roy's glasses. At the next alley, she wears a sleek red mini dress. Once again, distracting the men at the bowling alley. Next alley, she is in yellow shorts, short shorts, and a bikini top and pigtails. They beat a group of old ladies after that, but the ladies don't have enough money, so they take one of the ladies' scooters. I laughed so hard at this scene when I saw the scooter in the back. Roy teaches Ishmael about flossing, and Ishmael says that he has so much to learn, and sometimes it's scary. Roy wakes Ishmael up in the middle of the night. He tells him there's an emergency and they have to leave right away without Claudia. Claudia, however, is already in the car waiting for them. She asks Roy to chat with him. He attempts to explain, but she kicks him in the balls. He tells her, "You must have really white feet, you got both of them." Roy says that he knew Claudia was going to steal the money, but he beat her to it. Claudia challenges him to a fight. He says that he has done a lot of creepy things in his lifetime, but fighting with a woman is not one of them. Claudia keeps punching him, however, until he fights back. Roy notices Ishmael is missing. They go over to the car and see a note that says, "I thought you were my friend. Goodbye, Ishmael." Ishmael is walking down the road and tears are falling down his face. Claudia is concerned about Ishmael trying to get to Reno on his own. She says she hopes Ishmael doesn't get Munson. Roy then sees a sign for Ocelot, 1 mile. He tells Claudia that is where he is from, and he hasn't been there in 17 years. He is nervous about going into town. He is surprised how bad the town now looks. She asks him what took him so long to return. Roy said he was ashamed. He shows her the pocket watch his dad gave him, but Roy never got it to work. Roy shows Claudia the bowling alley his dad made that they used to bowl together in his backyard. He explains that when his dad died 10 years ago, he didn't even have the nerve to return to the funeral. Claudia says Roy's dad would be proud of the man that he is, and for showing Ishmael his bowling knowledge. No, he wouldn't be proud, Roy tells her. "Let's go find that kid." And you see it's how Munson's starting to change here, which I love. Very, very good. See that gradual change. They hit the road again. She suggests they start over, and Roy likes that idea. They stop at a reptile farm. The man working with the snake says Ishmael was there. He offered him a job. However, Ishmael is afraid of snakes. Then they go to a strip club. Ishmael is dressed as a woman and pole dancing. Roy and Ishmael run to the car which Claudia has brought around. Roy tells him that he shouldn't still be mad at them since they just saved his life. Ishmael says he heard what they said about him. Roy explains that he and Claudia were fighting because they had a rotten run and stopped trusting people. I forgot where I am. One second, I forgot where I am. Okay. Claudia tells Ishmael that if he wants, they will drop him off wherever he wants, or they can work together as a team. Roy reminds him, what does the Bible say about not forgetting? Ishmael smiles and says, it's against it, right? Nice recall back to earlier in the movie with Thomas. Ishmael dozes off, and Roy puts shaving cream on Ishmael's hand. Then he tickles his nose. Ishmael inches his nose, getting shaving cream all over his face. Ishmael tries to floss with what looks like a string bracelet that kids wear that have those little charms on them, and they stretch. That's what it looked like. I don't know if that's what it was, but I'm done with that sort of. Roy is asleep in the car, and Ishmael tries the shaving cream trick on him. Roy clawed his nose and has a band-aid on it. He is not happy. Ishmael and Claudia offer some to Ishmael, but he turns them around. Meanwhile, he has a giant bone. The three cheer as they reach Reno, Nevada. Ishmael wakes up and screams. He has a small tattoo on his chest. Roy tells him to relax, and Ishmael asks Roy how he could let him do that. But Roy says he doesn't even remember yesterday bec- um, because everything was such a blur from all the drinking that they've done and whatnot. Ishmael says he committed a sin, desecrating his body. He now says he can't go home ever again. Ishmael looks in the mirror and decides it's not that bad. Roy gasps. Ishmael asks him what's wrong. We see a tattoo of a big chested woman. And I lost my place again. Hold on. They go to the casino. The gambler says, Hey, Dollface, how about bringing me a little lady luck? Ishmael takes the dice and says, Sure, thinking that the gambler's talking to him. He rolls it, and the gambler wins a lot of money. They are eating, and McCracken comes in as people are interviewing him. A reporter asks McCracken about a paternity suit against him. McCracken denies he could be the father, explaining he always pulls out. Then we see Roy. Sorry, then he sees Roy. He sees Roy's fake hand and calls it creepy. And McCracken says, I barely turn the page. McCracken says, For the first couple of years, I felt responsible. Roy says he thought every day for the last 17 years what he would say to McCracken if he ever saw him again. McCracken laughs and says, I bet. He then says hi to Claudia, and Roy is surprised that they know each other. I keep losing my place. I'm having trouble focusing today, apparently. But as I've told you guys before, I have ADHD, but I apologize. Oh. McCracken then says hi to Claudia, and Roy is surprised they know each other. McCracken says that she should stop slumming and return to him. Roy says McCracken ruined his life. McCracken says that he was sorry and he meant it. McCracken then says Roy is a born loser. Ishmael tries to punch McCracken, but McCracken moves, and he hits the wall. Ishmael wants McCracken to leave, or you're gonna find your nose sniffing my Amish ass. Roy asks Ishmael if he's okay. Ishmael runs out, and Roy goes after him. Claudia goes to another room. Stanley is there waiting for her. Stanley tells her that she shouldn't have quit him. She says he shouldn't have hit her. He tells her that nothing is compared to what he's going to do to her friends. She says, They're not worth it. They're just a couple of losers. She kisses him and says, I missed you. I think of all the characters, Claudia may have been the best as far as not knowing what was going to happen because this whole time I'm going, no, no, don't go back to him. So I think development wise, I think she had the best slow progress. Roy asks Ishmael if he's okay. Ishmael comes out of the bathroom crying. He tells Roy it's over. His hand is broken. Roy says he thinks it's probably just sprained, but then concedes it is broken. They try to find Claudia, but the hotel maid said she left with a couple of good-looking guys. Roy asks Ishmael about the bag, which has the 42 grand in it. Ishmael says the bag is safe because he gave it to Claudia, which is great irony. And as we're going to see, it's going to become even more ironic in a bit. The gambler comes over to them when they are sitting at the bar. He says they look down on their luck. He offers Roy $1 million to sleep with Ishmael for one night. And if you did not get this reference, see the movie Indecent Proposal, also with Woody Harrelson. In the movie, Robert Redford's character, who's a millionaire, sees Demi Moore, who plays Woody Harrelson's wife, and is very attracted to her, and he offers Woody's character $1 million to sleep with his wife just for one night. And he allows her to, and that causes some problems, obviously. So that's what this is a reference to. Great movie, also. It's actually one of my favorite Woody Harrelson movies. I recommend it. Roy agrees and throws money in the air. We then see that Roy is dreaming. Roy says he never should have trusted Claudia, but Ishmael believes she'll be back. But they are in Reno, and they're going to win the tournament. Roy tells him he knew Ishmael was a champion. Ishmael clarifies, I'm not going to bowl, you are. Roy becomes angry, but Ishmael tells him he is the true champion. They see McCracken on TV. It shows he is a Hall of Fame bowler. He is sponsoring a fatherless family in every city he bowls. In the ad, he says the kids nearly got Munsoned. Roy decides to bowl. He finds out that he owes $38 in back dues to be considered a pro bowler. So he hasn't paid his back dues in 17 years, and she says fines, back dues, all of it combined, and it's only $38 in 17 years. That's pretty good. I wish credit cards worked like that. Ishmael is ready to give up, but Roy asks him to hold his ring until after the tournament. And this is one of the scenes, there's a few of these different ones where this happens. He puts out his rubber hand that has the ring on. He says, "Can you hold this?" And the ladies here are like, "What are we going to do with the rubber glove?" And he's like, "The ring." The tournament starts. Roy becomes nervous and says he can't do it. He sees the landlord from earlier holding up a sign that says, "Go Roy." But then we see it's Ishmael. Roy nods and bowls a strike. However, his rubber hand comes off in the ball. He asks the man in the alley for a screwdriver. The ball returns with the rubber hand still attached to it, and Roy says, "Never mind." Roy is bowling as well as he did in the past, but McCracken is still really good too. I lost my place again. Hold on. Oh, so he tells him never mind because he sees the glove again. During a break, a reporter interviews Roy. He asks Roy what he is doing all these years. Roy explains he's been drinking a lot. The man asks him if he's still drinking, and Roy says, "No, that's all behind me now. Why? Are you buying?" The tournament continues only until only McCracken and Roy are left. McCracken puts In Your Dreams Munson on the screen. Chris Berman and Chris Schenkel make cameos announcing the tournament updates. Growing up, I was a big, huge fan of Chris Berman. I'd even like sports, and I still only like baseball, basically. But when my parents, my whole family are big sports nuts. So when my parents would be watching any kind of sports, I think mainly football he did, which I really find barbaric. Um, I would literally come out of my room just to hear him do the highlights, and then go back because I didn't care about the actual event. I just wanted to hear him talk. Um, Phenomenal announcer. Roy is throwing up as the final round is about to start. Ishmael asks him if he's drinking again. Roy says he doesn't puke because he drinks, he pukes when he doesn't. And he admits he's scared. Ishmael hugs him. It's really nice to see the relationship between Ishmael and Roy growing and changing. Roy and McCracken walk out. Roy falls when he trips over the ball return machine. McCracken bowls a strike in his first frame. Roy does as well. In one of the frames, Roy fails to pick up a spare. Stanley goes to make a phone call. Claudia asks the bartender to put it on ESPN. He turns it and she cheers when she sees that Roy is doing well. In the 10th frame, he has a 7-10 split, which is like the most difficult split to do. Thomas arrives to take Ishmael home. Ishmael says, "No way, over my dead body." Thomas tells him it's time to go home now. Ishmael says, "Okay," and gets up to leave. Roy gets the 7-10 split, picking up the spare. He now only needs one strike to force McCracken to need the 3 strikes in a row. Which, if I remember the bowling terminology correctly, 3 strikes in a row is called a turkey. But you bowlers out there, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong about that. Roy notices Ishmael is missing. McCracken gets a strike. Roy is very upset about Ishmael being gone. It is down to McCracken's final ball. He needs a strike. He rolls the ball, and it's a strike. McCracken wins the tournament. He announces the score is 226 to 225. Roy shakes McCracken's hand. Roy's fake hand falls off into McCracken's hand, and McCracken freaks out and tosses it into the audience. Roy just sits there utterly defeated. Everyone has left the bowling alley. The maintenance man is cleaning the bowling alley. Roy is still sitting there. The man picks up Roy's rubber hand and gives it back to him. Roy screams in anguish as he goes to his car. Stanley attacks him, asking where Claudia is. Stanley says that Claudia stole his money, and Roy replies, "Welcome to the club." Stanley says Claudia called McCracken 14 times in the last 3 days. He asks Roy who this relationship is and what it has to do with him. Roy holds up his rubber hand and says McCracken was responsible for it. Of course, Stanley now notices the ring. It's where everybody else always would notice the ring. I mean, the hand. He notices the ring and asks if it's solid gold, and Roy tells him, the hand. Then Roy explains he's no longer sure who is to blame. And I loved another turning point here where all these years he's been blaming McCracken for ruining his life, and then he's starting to realize he made these choices, and after he continued making poor choices, so may not be all of Munson's fault, or sorry, all of McCracken's fault. So again, we're seeing this growth, which is awesome. A week later, Roy is back home. He's pouring out all of his alcohol bottles. There's a knock on the door, and he thinks it's his landlord and yells, "Go away! You'll get your rent tomorrow." Claudia walks in and says she has the money. Roy tells her she dumped them when they needed her the most. She explains that she had to go to protect him and Ishmael from Stanley. She informs him that she has $84,000. If you remember before, it was $42,000. So Roy tells her that it's twice as much as they had. She says Stanley bet on McCracken and doubled the money. She adds, "But I'm ready to start betting on you, Roy." That's such a sweet line. He shows her a check for $500,000 from Trojan Condoms. His rubber hand has made him a spokesperson. He tells her, "And I'm only have to split it one way." Ishmael tells Thomas he can't face the family because he wanted to save the day. Thomas tells him that they're going to know that he meant well. Roy and Claudia are at Ishmael's house when Ishmael arrives. We learn Roy told his father everything. This everything is about getting Roy to quit gambling and drinking, as well as getting Claudia to quit sleeping around. Ishmael asks about the foreclosures. His parents explain Roy and Claudia put $500,000 in the bank. Ishmael says, Oh, you guys, I'm gonna have to watch out for you two. I'm gonna have to watch you two, which is a reference he makes earlier in the film with just Roy when Roy tells him it was just a test and he gets him back in the car. He says, "I'm gonna have to watch you." Now he's gonna have to watch you too. He tells Claudia, "I knew you'd come back." Ishmael thanks Roy as Roy and Claudia are leaving. Roy tells him that the thing about the Centurion's faith was real, but he didn't save the Amish people. He saved Roy. Ishmael doesn't understand, but hugs his friend anyway. Roy gets into the car. Claudia gives him the pocket watch he tossed out when they were in Ocelot. And it now works because Claudia wound it. And it amazes me in all those years that he never once thought to wind the watch. A ladybug lands on Roy's hand. Claudia tells him to make a wish. He does so, and then she asks what he wished for. Sorry. He asks her if she knows what he wished for, and she asks what. He kisses her and they drive off. The Amish wave and yell, "Bye, Brother Munson. Bye, whore." So I gave this movie 5 out of 5 beer nuts. I have never seen it, so technically it's a watch, not a rewatch. But I did not think I would like it when I was after the vote, and I was like I really want to watch that one, but that's what once I'll watch it. And I was amazed. I actually loved this movie. Phenomenal job by the cast. Obviously, MVP is Woody Harrelson, who played Roy Munson. I love the writing for this movie is also good because I love how, like I said, you see his growth when he's a little boy and his dad tells him he's going to be good and decent or whatever, and then the thing with McCracken happens and he kind of becomes, well, he very much becomes a lot like McCracken. He's drinking, smoking, doing a lot of bad things, cheating people definitely. And then when he meets Ishmael, which Ishmael has great lines too. You see him also growing with Ishmael. He's trying to corrupt Ishmael, but Ishmael's trying to hold on to what he believes in. But Roy, seeing this, he starts changing. I mean, so well done. My favorite line in this movie, Roy. He wants to. Start that over again. Roy says, "He blessed you too. I'll give you a clue what it is. It's round and has 3 holes, and you stick your fingers in it." Ishmael replies, "You leave Rebecca out of this." Roy replies, "I was talking about bowling." My runner up for favorite line, Claudia, referring to Roy's claw. "Must be tough when you spank your monkey." Ishmael asks, "You have a monkey?" Here's a little known fact. Woody Harrelson is a terrible bowler. He only got 1 or 2 strikes the entire time they were making this movie. Bill Murray, however, is pretty good. The 3 strikes he needed in a row to win, Murray himself got those 3 strikes. And now I would like to ask you all to please join me in wishing Woody Harrelson a happy 64th birthday. And obviously, here's his cheers picture, and here's a more current picture. If you like this episode, please join the Facebook group Cheers. That's one woman's opinion. And you can also follow us on Instagram at Cheers One Woman Podcast. And again, we now have a Twitter account, so you can follow us there as well at One Woman Opinion. And of course, you can always email us with questions, concerns, etc. at cheersonewomanpodcast@gmail.com. Tomorrow there will be a regular Cheers episode as always, coming out about 9 o'clock. And that would be Cheers Season 1, Episode 20. Someone single, someone blue. And that's one woman's opinion. Thank you.